Well, hello, fellow idiots. You are listening to the Idiots vs. Idiots program extravaganza.
Are you calling all the listeners idiots? You said hello, idiots. Are you calling
Yes.
everybody an idiot, Danny? Is that what you...
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
For legal reasons and also other reasons. Dunning-Kruger. Anyways,
all the way around, yes.
Yeah, we are a business and marketplace news show, and today we are brought to you by Liquid Death. I'm sure you people do not know this, but over here at Idiots vs. Idiots, we are death peddlers. That is right. We peddle the death of plastic pollution. Not only does Liquid Death murder your thirst, 10% of every can sold goes to end plastic pollution. And frankly, I got to tell you people, it is a superior water delivery system. Add a pair of koozies to your order and get them for free when you use codes idiot10 at liquiddeath.com. Now, big man,
did that this morning? It works.
It works. Are you ready to talk about this is the most exciting / horrifying thing. As someone who is big into distributed finance or DeFi, to see Coinbase going public. So let me craft an analogy here. Let me paint a picture for our audience.
Sure.
This is like when your favorite band that is not known by very few people, it's a very small audience, and they have a hit song that goes top 40, and now they're on the Billboard. Now they're charting. Now everybody knows who they are. And you go and you look at them and say, but I was listening to them when there was 15 of us in their stepmom's basement.
Right,
I know this band. You're a fair weather fan. You don't even,
You're a bandwagoner. Yeah, I get it.
And all of my friends who are watching the various things going on in the distributed finance industry, whether that's cryptocurrencies or other things, and they're like, hey, what is DogeCoin? What is that? And I have to temper my responses to not be like, listen, you doofus.
Hey, DogeCoin hit 10 cents this week.
No, DogeCoin hit 45 at some point. I think, 45, 38.
Okay,
yeah.
But really, the milestone was 10. The big milestone to pass was 10, right? Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
And there's a meme out there somewhere of where it's the Grim Reaper and he's knocking on all the doors, and he hit 5 cents, 10 cents, 25, and it's now 50 cents is the door,
right,
but it has 50 cents picture, the wrap.
That's funny.
No, but what is interesting though is Coinbase went public on its first day on the NASDAQ, and it closed at $320 a share. Why couldn't it have been $420? Because the entire industry is about internet memes. But the exchange closes on its first day of trading at, are you ready?
What's that?
$85.8 billion. $90 billion.
Yeah, so Coinbase, right? It's actually Coinbase Global, right? Is the name of the IPO here, or not IPO, but direct to market, right?
Yeah, the share.
And it's actually COIN, so it actually has a NASDAQ symbol that represents its business, which I always enjoy, right? COIN is the stock ticker, and since Wednesday,
there's two things that we've discussed. The one thing that I love a good scam, but man, do I love a good stock ticker. A ticker that really fits.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's going to be easy to find. But so since Wednesday, Coinbase, it's actually traded from between 310 to 430, 429 and change, right? So it's gone from, it's back and forth. It's currently at about 342 is where it's sitting as of today, recording this episode.
Right.
But look, this was originally, and this is what you and I have talked decently about stock, and again, we're not stock we're stock traders, but we don't give advice. We're not responsible. We are idiots.
Yeah, if you look to Idiots versus Idiots for stock trading advice, best of luck in your other endeavors, which may include jumping out of a plane without a parachute.
But so when you talk about when these things come to market, right, whether it's through IPO, whatever, typically these companies give them a valuation before they hit. They go, hey, we think for example, Google, way back in the day when it first hit the market, they said, hey, we think it's going to hit for $90 a share. They always give an estimate. The estimate for this that it never was as low as was $250 a share. That was the estimate that, hey, this is going to hit the market at $250 a share. And then the first day, it's $328. Now it's gone from, it's traded between $310 and $430 since its existence. Now, what I like about the way they did this, and this is kind of a third way, we've talked about SPACs, we talk about IPOs, and we've talked about direct offerings.
Yeah.
One of the unique things, and I say this about this because it's important if you're investing in a startup that hasn't gone public yet. Like, for example, Kevin Durant. Big basketball player, you may not know him. Also played basketball here with the Longhorns at University of Texas, right? Okay. Third richest NBA player currently playing.
Really?
Great guy. Back in 2017, was one of the investors into Coinbase by a lot. His investment has grown by 53 times. Okay, you do the math on that, right?
Yeah, no, Kevin Durant was a former Timberwolf. I, as some of you may or may not know, originate from the awful state of Minnesota, currently on fire. Born and raised, so you can't really challenge my street credibility. I call myself proudly a Texan, but...
Yes, as you should.
And, I proved the idiom wrong. You can take the boy out of Minnesota and take the Minnesota out of the boy. But, here's the other thing. Nas, the rapper Nas, who is, very well respected as a rapper, who I never really cared for. No disrespect to the man. Just didn't care for his music. Was too conscious. I don't like anything that's too conscious. I want my rap to be offensive and, very... Yeah. We know what I'm looking for in my hip-hop music, right? Violence.
Right. Old school hip-hop. Yeah.
Very gratuitous references. Anyways, his investment, they suggest, is going to be in the ballpark of $100 million value. Well, they said he put in something like $10 million or $5 million or something like that, Queensbridge, which is his venture capital firm. Right. And it's going to be worth $100 million. And that was at the $250 price point.
Well, but see, and you talk about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant didn't pay $250 a share, right?
Of course not.
Now, they didn't disclose how much Kevin Durant and his guys, put in the company in 2017. But you do the math. If he invested $1 million, it would now be worth $53 million. Like it's 53 times. So whatever he invested, which was probably millions, right? But here's what I was saying about going direct like this. One of the benefits it allows is people that have invested previously in the company before it went public. When you go IPO, there are rules about how insiders, meaning people that already own stock in the company,
can offload their shares.
When they can offload their stock, right? And what has to happen. When you go direct to market like they did in this one, those previous investors can start trading their stock from day one. So Kevin Durant could have completely, not that he did, but he could have completely divested in the company from day one. He taken his 53x, right, in return on investment, and walked away and invested in something else, right?
Right,
you can't always do that.
Yeah, and listen, if I was Kevin Durant or Nas or any of these other, I would call them quote-unquote celebrity investors, I would say that's something I would do because, you might be leaving some money on the table, but it's going to be chump change compared to you put in $1 million, you got out 53, go do it again.
Right.
You're not going to do it again here. You've already maximized that, we're talking about incremental gains. But let me just make a side note because you brought it up. I find it fantastic that we have NBA players, rappers, actors who are realizing that, their careers, their first careers probably have a shelf life, right? And their second careers as entrepreneurs that you can keep doing for the rest of your life. I was just recently watching an HBO series called Wall Street, like WAHL, like Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Talking about the different businesses this guy's is in, that Mark Wahlberg is in.
Mark Wahlberg, The Rock, these guys are in everything.
Mark Wahlberg owns Mark Wahlberg Chevrolet. Okay. That is...
Hey, good for him.
That is good for him. But I thought it was just interesting that we are seeing, Jessica Alba, one of my faves from when I was a child. Mm-hmm. she owns honest products. They sell organic, whatever. I mean, Gwyneth Paltrow is another example, but she's awful. Everything she sells is
that
awful.
is not. Gwyneth Paltrow has been sued like 5 times for
Yeah.
not natural products. But here, look, for those of you that don't know, and again, we want to make sure that, as Danny said, we're probably talking to a bunch of idiots just like we are. Coinbase is an app that allows you to purchase cryptocurrency. Most 90% of their product trades are Bitcoin and Ethereum, right?
Yeah.
But they allow you to trade other things as well. But that's what Coinbase does, right? It was started in 2012 to actually, with the point, their mission was to allow your average person to access buying and selling and trading.
And let me tell you, as someone who is, and again, just to enlighten our audience here, we are divided here, idiots versus idiots. One of us is a heavy distributed finance, cryptocurrency, and that entire industry fan. That's me. I'm the red pill to the big man's blue pill, and that's fine. There's a reason we have our relationship and we build a podcast together is because we approach everything in business and in life from completely different angles, but we're still pals.
Absolutely.
This is a model not only for other entrepreneurs, but for the country. Like, hey, we are completely different human beings, but we still love each other and we're still pals. But he's also an idiot and up his. But also...
Hey, I can root for you and disagree with you. I can root for you. I am rooting for people that invested in cryptocurrency and the different ones, and then we talked about DogeCoin and all these different things.
And I'm not saying I have or have not invested in them. I'm just a fan. That's all my formal statement is. I'm just a fan. But let me also add this element. This offers people like the big man, the blue-pilled amongst us who say this whole thing is fake, none of it's real, and that is totally fine. This is still America. He's still allowed to have the wrong opinion about practically everything. But it allows people like him to go, I'm now not speculating on the cryptocurrencies. I'm speculating on the people who speculate on them, right?
So and this I can get behind. This I can, you see, I can, as you said, a blue pill in the case of cryptocurrency is only a thing until it's not, and then everybody falls apart, right? So, but I'm just saying, again, that's my opinion, as you said. Yeah. But in this case, this is a company I can get behind, and here's why. I'll tell you why, all right? I'm going to read through this. I know it's a bunch of numbers, but I want you to really understand because this has to do with stock trading and companies and real companies, right? It says, last week announcing preliminary first quarter results, the revenue in the period surged 9-fold from a year ago to $1.8 billion, meaning Coinbase, through transaction payments, collected $1.8 billion. A net income climbed from $32 million to $730 million. And the number of monthly transactions climbed from 2.8 million to 6.1 million. These are numbers I can get behind. 2020 was their first, out of 2012 to 2020, 2020 was their first year of actual profit, right? Guess what? That's when you go public. You show your first year of profitability that you can go from not making money to making a lot of it. That's when you go, right? So they followed the steps. Look, this is a Warren Buffett thing too. You don't invest in companies, you invest in the people that run those companies, right?
Totally.
And in this case, you look at that track record. It took them 8 years, which again is not bad before you show a profit in today's world. They show a profit, not only a profit, but a big profit, and then they go public. This is smart business. This is business I can get behind. Now, this had nothing to do with investing in cryptocurrency.
Right.
And that's in here. Go ahead.
Right. No, like the big man was saying, that is why I included this story in today's latest stories, was because we have on this show two extremely different perspectives on the world and finance and distributed finance. But this is a place where I cringe a little because I don't want the normies involved in my deal. Okay?
Okay, normies, is that a poor people thing? Is that a rich people thing?
No.
What is the normies?
No, that's just the blue pill to people who are like, normal finance is fine. The Federal Reserve can print $1 trillion. It doesn't matter. Yeah, pew, pew, pew. Printers on burr.
I am not that person. But
I know you're not. I know you're not, but I'm just saying that like I said, I'm I am like the hipster who's like, I was listening to My Chemical Romance before all of you, and none of you liked them as much as I do.
Right.
And like to see the average investor, and like I said, my friends hitting me up saying, "What is this? What does it mean?" I one half of me goes, "Wow, this is the thing that I bet on." Right?
Sure.
I bet on the mass adoption. So this is just in me. I'm emotionally broken because I'm a human being. Going. Oh, so now you see its value, right?
Oh, now I've been talking about it for 8 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
Look,
but that's fine.
That's
and
my
what I'm
fear
trying to,
for you. That is my fear of cryptocurrency. We live in an influencer world now,
right?
And this is what cryptocurrency is. It is pushed by influencers, and it's pushed by being mainstream and all of these things.
Yeah,
and again, that's all fine and dandy as long as it's working. I just don't think things that are built on that model have a tendency to last. Right? And that is my thing.
So I'm not going to argue with the big man on our show here, at least not on this one, because this is most of the time I will never shy away from arguing with the big man on any petty item, right? Which cars are, but no, there is no argument too small to have with the big man, at least for me. However, this is one of those things where I just want to kick my feet up on the desk, and in 10 years, when I'm just smoking a big old stogie with my cowboy boots up on the desk, just counting out my cryptocurrency, like even though it's not physical.
Again, and I can root for you and everybody else. I just read an article this week that if you'd had invested $1,000 into DogeCoin January 1st of 2021, you could buy a Tesla today.
Right.
And again, I'm rooting for you. If you,
I know you are.
Absolutely, make that money, but get out while you can.
But here's the thing: when those profits keep coming in, where the big man thinks they won't, that's the ultimate dunk, right? That's going to be the ultimate dunk.
Yeah, people have been saying that about Vegas for years. So you keep on playing that roulette, brother. You keep on playing that craps table, and it's going to be lucky numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of the big man, I want to tell you guys about something. It's called Big Man Gear. Now, Big Man Gear is the big man's idea of a funny merch brand. It's corny dad jokes and memes on T-shirts, and they're for sale on Amazon Prime. Currently, can they still buy the unapproved Idiots versus Idiots logo tee?
They cannot, because I took it down because Danny has a problem with it. So
no, hold on.
I took that away. But I did
those of you who have purchased this now have a limited edition.
That's right. But I did add several new Idiots branded shirts this week. Several I'm very proud of. I enjoyed a lot, so go check them out. Buy a couple of those. You'll enjoy them.
You can go to bigmangear.com because who doesn't need an extra T-shirt to tell everyone how they feel about their personal business and marketplace news source? I stole the big man's ad read because I forgot that he was supposed to read it.
I don't care. I didn't have it up anyway. So
okay, well, here we go. Here's this next story. I found this one very interesting. As you know, on this very channel, I do a car podcast called Carspiracy.
That's right.
We have episode 5 coming out very soon, but this is a very interesting story. This podcast was started at the tail end of the middle of the Dos Equis pandy. And this is wild because this applies to me. I'm making a trip somewhere. I made the exact same trip last year, and I paid $200 for 4 days to rent a full-size SUV, and that's right, I'm just one person, and I rented a Tahoe. And because that's what, I'm not sitting that close to a steering wheel in a Honda Accord. But what I find crazy is now I'm making the exact same trip, and to get just a basic car, it was $600.
Currently $300 a day for a Ford Focus in Vegas. Just to give you an idea, and we're talking about Vegas here. Right. We're talking about Vegas. People fly into Vegas. They know they're flying into Vegas. They know, right? Go ahead.
So here's what happened. Like I said, this show was started at the end of the middle of the Dos Equis pandy in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And we started it not really knowing what the future was. And similarly, rental car companies did not know what the future held. So last year, when their traveling was effectively shuttered, no one was renting a car.
Nobody
They
was
had
flying, which is where most of their car rentals come from, right? People
right.
going out of town, that kind of stuff.
The three of the largest rental car companies, which there's basically only three, even though there's several brands. There's
Right.
effectively just Enterprise, which is also National and Alamo. There's
Yep.
Hertz, which went bankrupt last year, and then
Which
there's
is going to come out the other end. There was looking at points where it wasn't, but
yep,
now it looks like it is. It got a big influx of investor cash and stuff like that, and it looks like it's actually going to make it out of bankruptcy the other end, which would still maintain their top three, right?
yeah.
One of the top three.
And then the next one is Avis Budget, which is
Right.
Avis and Budget are two different companies, but they're one company.
Yep.
So here's what happened: they collectively sold in 2020 450,000 vehicles out of their fleets. And what's now happened is, as more people are getting the poke, can't say the word here, I don't think. So we just try to avoid saying words that get us flagged. So as more people are getting the poke, as more people are
The
feeling
Fauci
comfortable.
ouchie.
There you go. I don't even know if we could.
Look, and here's what I think is sometimes in even big business, certain things are opportunistic, not on purpose, just again the randomness of the world. But during, as you say, the Dos Equis pandy of last year, there also happened to be a used car shortage in the market. So used
There still
cars,
is. There still is.
So during this time of used car sales prices going skyrocketing, they were able to sell off their used car fleet at a premium, which
Yep.
has essentially saved all three of their businesses.
Right.
But then again, you turn around and they have been selling off their fleet for effectively a year, and now they're 500 million cars short of where they should have been anyway, right? Before pre all this stuff, they were
Right.
already, as they say in the car industry, running lean. I actually
Right.
know several enterprise car rental managers, branch managers,
Right.
regional managers, and they are very good. And as you said, Dos Equis, they were running lean, meaning
Right.
branch managers are expected to have empty lots anyway, to be renting
Right.
out more cars than they have already.
Right.
And they were doing that right, Dos Equis.
Yes.
So you eliminate 500 million cars, and now you're talking about...
Do you mean 500,000 to a million?
I'm sorry,
I don't think
500,000 cars. I apologize. 500,000
Yeah.
cars. 500,000 is what I was
Yes.
saying.
Yeah.
500,000
Okay.
cars from your fleet.
Yeah.
And now everything, and guess, since the Fauci ouchie and more people, right? 1 in 4 people have now had the Fauci ouchie and all that stuff. You're talking about people that have been hooked up in their houses for a year
Cooped
are
up
like,
in their house.
let me out.
Yes.
Let me out now. So there is no ramp up. And guess what? By the way, because of all the things that have happened and the slowdown in manufacturing and the chip shortage
Chip
and all
shortages.
that stuff, the cars aren't there for them to turn around and buy either.
That's right. So there's a shortage across the board of both used cars and new cars due to manufacturing shortages. And a lot of people, there's a few podcasts that I listen to. One of them is called The Fifth Column, and they talk about how, New Yorkers previously never really had cars. A lot of people, if you live in the city, why would you have a car? But a lot of people went out and bought cars because they're like, I don't want to sit on the subway with a bunch of whatever, or they're
Right.
trying to leave the city and it's complicated to leave without a car. So a lot of people went out and bought cars who traditionally maybe didn't have cars. And I know the used market is squeezed. I know a couple of people in the used car market who on a weekly basis call each other to go, can you believe somebody paid $8,000 for a 200,000-mile Suburban, knowing that they're going to sell it for $10,000?
Absolutely.
That there's somebody out there paying $10,000 for that. I personally know this because in the middle of last year, I decided to sell my truck thinking, I can't believe somebody's willing to pay me this much money, figuring I'd turn around and buy something else, but I can't. There's nothing out there to buy. So I thought this was odd because it's a confluence of events where they made a chunk of money up front selling their fleet at a time when it was probably smart for them to sell their fleet, but unforeseeable hiccups in our supply chain and the slowdown of our chip manufacturing, because the entirety of silicon chip manufacturing, like the majority of it, takes place in Asia.
Correct. Asia somewhere, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Taiwan, sometimes China, some of it in Japan, but not really.
Right.
So their slowdowns, and of course they have priorities. Exporting chip is probably not going to be one of their priorities. So
No.
we are in a situation where Ford has said we are shutting down plants for the summer because
Absolutely.
we just don't have we can't have people out. There's nothing to manufacture.
Every
Right?
manufacturer has slowed production for the summer, right?
Yeah, and Nissan is shutting down all of their Japanese manufacturing for the summer.
And look here, so what that has turned around for the automotive industry, well, in this case, the rental industry, it's created good old fashioned supply and demand, right?
Right.
I get somebody to pay. I can now pay somebody $300. I can get somebody instead of $59 a day, right?
Right.
Which is probably a Focus, right? Back at,
Yeah.
18 months ago, $59 a day all day long is now $300 a day, and they're because of the way they run their business. You show up, and there's several articles when I started reading through this and kind of going through auxiliary articles. There's articles being written of customer service. Obviously, their customer service surveys are in the tank because
Right.
people are showing up that have reservations that don't have a car. There's a couple of review articles that said, hey, I had to fly into a different airport because they didn't have the car. They didn't have a car for me to leave the airport, right? There was several of them that were like, I was flying into Fort Lauderdale, Florida, couldn't get a car there to be able to leave the airport because I'm not going there to visit family. I'm going there for
Right.
something else, right?
Vacation or whatever,
and,
yeah.
you know, and there's just they're not going to be able to leave. And then you add on top of that, and this didn't make sense until I read it. A couple of these different things they were saying why people are renting cars that they didn't used to. People are opting to rent a car instead of rideshare because,
Right.
again, health concerns. People are still renting cars for road trips instead of flying. Right? The road trip is back where we all were flying everywhere. The road trip is back, and if you're taking a road trip, most people don't take their own cars anymore.
No, not
right?
anymore because everyone's car's junk now.
Well, exactly. So, or you just don't want to put those miles on your car, right? If you're
Yeah.
like me and you keep your cars and trucks and everything like that forever, why put 1,000 miles if you're going on a road trip, on your car when it was effectively now not in today's world, not right now, paying $300 a day, and that's for a Focus. Imagine what they're paying in Vegas right now for that SUV. For a minivan.
It's $1,000. I mean, it's a few $100 a day. Because I always, even if I'm traveling by myself, I don't like small vehicles.
I don't either. I do the national thing where you pick your car.
Yeah, so I do the same. I used to do the same thing, but it blew my mind that I couldn't find anything. So I just thought this was interesting because this is one of those things that we're not grasping on a day-to-day basis of the supply chain hiccups, even though they were minimal. They were expected to be much larger. The supply chain hiccups were so, and we were expecting.
You couldn't foresee them. You couldn't. They were unforeseeable, right? And then and guess what? They didn't see it either. I mean, I guarantee you, Avis, Hertz, right, Enterprise, they all thought, hey, let's sell off these used cars. We're getting a premium for it anyway. We've got to do it to stay afloat. And on the other side of this, we'll just buy back everything we need, right? And then people will pay a premium to drive a brand new car, yada, yada.
So here's where, for you, the audience, there might be an opportunity. There are two apps out there, one called The Veil from Allstate, and there's another one called Turo. You can go rent out your own car. And people are so desperate. People are so desperate for rental cars that it's effectively Airbnb for cars, right?
Right. Yeah, I've actually saw for the first time in a couple of years the actual commercial. I think it was for Turo on TV because it has gotten to that point where they see an opportunity, right? The individual rental car market,
right? And this might be a situation where I'm making a prediction here. I think enough people will get pushed into using Turo that they'll just keep using Turo, right?
That's what they hope, right? Again, we talk about stocks and investments, and because that's part of entrepreneurship. I think whether it's through your big companies, like we talked about the big three, or
Right.
apps like that. I think
Right.
there's some money to be made from an investment standpoint on these.
Yes.
Part of what's causing this problem with these are the three biggest ones. These three big ones push most of your. You used to be able to go rent a car from Bob's Rental Car or this
Right.
mom and pop shop. They effectively price pointed like Walmart or anything else. They pushed
Yeah.
all those smaller companies out of the business, and
Right.
now there's no alternative. Right? So because
Well-
they're suffering, the whole market's suffering, and it's everywhere, folks. It's Houston, it's Kansas City, it's
Yup.
Memphis, small markets, big markets, it doesn't
matter where you are. So I know someone, I have a friend of mine who ended up owning, he was doing one of those things, he's selling a car, but he ended up getting a car from someone in his family, so he ended up getting his new car before the other car was sold. He put that sucker up on Turo, it was a Fiat 500, and he had that thing out forever. And then he still sold it, but the point was, he got that thing out on Turo, people were renting it.
Absolutely.
Listen, if you're someone who has an inside into getting cars cheap, I'm one of those people. I have ways of, and I got guys in the industry. You know, you buy something with a couple dings and dents, you pop them, you get them cleaned up. There's so many different ways to make money, but the reason I included this story was not just because of the long-term unforeseeable effects of the supply chain slowdown, and I wanted our audience to consider, you know, where are the parts of that where they can profit, but also to point out to people, hey, you might be in a situation where if you're in a smaller market where, you know, the big three rental car companies are less concerned about fulfilling orders in your place, you might become the only guy with a Camry. If you got a 2015 Camry that you don't drive or whatever, right? Because a lot of people now...
These apps should be going out there making partnerships with some of these smaller mom and pop used car companies, right? That have a fleet sitting there that, again, it could change every week, right? I'm going to sell it regardless. And again, nobody's going to put enough miles on it, and especially in certain places, to really affect the overall value of it and stuff like that.
Well, then, I mean, the nice thing about Turo is you can put mileage caps and mileage overage charges into your fee. Sure. And there are services like we have in Austin. There's a company that will manage for you. So this sparked a thought process in my head. There's a couple of cars out there that I want to drive that I'd like to have, but I'm not going to use them every day. There's no reason for me to buy them, right? But I'm a car guy. So I sat down and I started doing the math, and I looked at rates on Turo and other places and realized, hey, I can buy these cars and put them on Turo, and based on current numbers, make money.
Well, and if you wanted to, you wanted to take the opportunity to undercut, right, all these big name agencies that would normally undercut you.
Which you can now actually do.
Right. Yeah, let's just say you're taking 20%. You own a Ford Focus in Vegas. You could rent it out for $240 a day, and that's 20% less than what they're going to rent it out at everybody else. And so that would be enough for me to use someone else's car instead of Enterprise or whatever else, right? That 20%. Right. And $240 a day, it doesn't take long to start doing that math, right, on a monthly basis. Half of the month, and you're at, you know what I mean, $3,200, right?
Yeah, and listen, if you're the kind of person who works from home, who gets their groceries delivered, maybe there's a few days a week you don't need the car, and those are the days a week that you have it out on Turo, and that works for you. So, but hey, folks, I did want to tell you about something else. I wanted to tell you about this exclusive club that you can join today. It's called Up Yours Club. You can go to upyoursclub.com right now. Any of you, it's free to join, and all you have to do is give us an email address, but also you have the opportunity to give us a one-time or ongoing non-tax deductible donation. Now, you have to talk to your tax professional to determine if it is non-tax deductible or not. I'm not a tax professional, and I'm not offering tax advice.
You definitely need to buy Danny a cup of coffee, okay?
That's so true.
You really do. I mean, he needs your support, and all that kind of stuff. So do that, definitely. And upyoursclub.com.
Yes. Listen, upyoursclub.com.
Yeah.
So this next story is interesting because it applies to every human being that exists on the face of the planet, but specifically to the big man because he is
Yeah.
Can I say the words? He is
You
a
absolutely
realtor.
can say the words. They're behind me and around me and everywhere else.
You paid for it. So the big man he is the big man in real estate, actually.
That
In
was the
Austin.
origin of the big man branding, was the big man
Yeah.
in real estate. And yes, so I own parts of several real estate companies now. So this is obviously dear to my heart. And I got to tell you, it is both wonderful. This story is both wonderful and infuriating all at the same time. Because I, being the big man in real estate, have actually been talking about this for years, pre-Dos Pandy, right? And
Right.
then now it's just, as many things that we've talked about on this podcast, accelerated the problem, right?
Right.
It's accelerated the problem. And that problem we're talking about is, according to the article, and several of them Danny sent me here, it says the U.S. market needs to add 4 million single-family homes just to catch up to current demand, right?
Wild.
That is insane.
So both of us are in the Austin market. I'm actually working on a real estate license right now. And what's interesting is our market in Austin is wild.
Oh,
It is
It's
awful. Gratuitous. It's offensive.
awful.
I'm offended.
It's great to make money, but it is offensive. We have people paying at any given weekend, no matter the price range. I don't care. You can't find a house for $200,000, but whether it's $200,000 or $2 million, any given weekend, a decent house, meaning decent, I can, even if I need a little bit of work, but it's livable, can go from 10 to 30% above market value.
Right.
On any given weekend, and people are paying that above, because banks don't give you above market value, folks.
Right.
Banks don't give it to you. Now, let's talk about that. If let's just say I can prove a home is worth $300,000 and it goes for $400,000. A bank isn't going to give you $400,000. They're not going to give you
That's right.
$360,000. They're not going to give you $350,000. They're going to give you whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever your loan you're using, anywhere from 3.5% to 20% down. They're going to
Right.
give you that portion, and people are paying that extra out of pocket. They're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get into homes in the Austin market, and they're having to do that because they're bidding against anywhere from 10. I'm getting 10 to 30 offers in 3 days on anywhere, again, like I said, 10 to 30 to 35% above what I can prove a home is worth, because that's how low the inventory is, right? And then you add on top of that since, and this is where, when we get into economics and stuff like that, people don't always understand how things that happen affect us 10, 20 years down the line.
Right.
The housing crisis in 2009, 2010 led to a bunch of your medium and small builders going bankrupt, getting out of the business entirely. They had to give up on homes that weren't finished because they couldn't afford to finish them. Nobody was buying them. There were failed neighborhoods that didn't get completed and whatever. And on the other side of that, who benefited? The high medium to big builders. The small and medium builders didn't come back. A lot of them. And then your medium high to big builders, your D.R. Hortons and stuff like that, have maintained their building at the edge. Right? They have not, in the last decade, been willing to risk all in. I'm going to build these homes as fast as I can and sell them as fast. They've maintained that. Nope, we're selling them here. Nope, we're fine. All right, we're going to steady increase. And then you have Dos Pandy walk in. Nobody wants to sell their home. And then not
only does nobody want to sell their home, the supply chain shortages on lumber, on all the things that it takes to build a house,
shingles, everything, every product. And this is, again, one of the big things. I've had this conversation with real estate professionals and real estate companies, people that I know, owners and everything, from the top down for the last 12 months. Well, previous to that, but on this subject, because we knew it was going to happen. We knew the production of last year, when everything hit, the world stopped. Not just the U.S. We are very focused. We go, okay, well, wait a minute. There was still lumber on the shelves at Home Depot. There was still, you know what I mean? Everything we needed to build a house, even in August, right? In September or whatever. They didn't realize that, guess what? that lumber doesn't stay at Home Depot. That's not where it's created, right?
No.
It's created cutting down trees in South
Brazil
America,
somewhere. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And when that stopped too for months.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you go through people don't understand that, especially in America, and we're lucky to live in a place where it seems like the rest of the world supplies us products to buy. And what that leads to is mountains. We have warehouses full of things like lumber and food and water and all these things, so that when you go to H-E-B, when you go to Home Depot, it's sitting there waiting on you.
Yeah.
The problem is it took us months, because there are so many warehouses. It took us months to go through that stuff. Warehouses kept sending it to the stores.
Yeah.
And that production lag then ended up to a warehouse lack of inventory that now has hit our shelves lack of inventory.
Yeah, and I think there's another angle to this, that is, people who lived in a city before are now rethinking, hey, I don't maybe want to live in such close proximity to people.
Absolutely.
There, in some regions, like my former hometown, people, don't want to be downtown for various reasons now, because there's unrest or civil whatever. And that has also pushed people into the suburbs. And then I know people that are like, why am I living in this particular state where I was married to a job where they said, you're gonna go work from home. And a lot of people have said, I'm not going back to my office.
A lot of businesses have said that.
And
so you have this upper middle class group of people that made money last year because they didn't lose their jobs. They just worked from home. Right? So they made the same amount of money, or they got a raise. And then you take the investors, and investors made a crap ton of money last year. So you take your upper middle class and above, right? Your top 20% of Americans, they made crap tons of money last year. And like you said, realize that I can now make that money from anywhere. And they moved. They they needed to. If I'm working from home, if my wife and I are both working from home, we need more than one office. We need more than one space.
Right. And so, we talked in our last episode about Joe Rogan building a little enclave of comedians. There are one group of people who went, hey, wait a minute. I'm touring nationally. I'm doing a podcast. I don't have to be in Los Angeles.
Nope.
Right? And a lot of people in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, they said, hey, Austin's a great place to move. So they're all making the move. And like you said, they're coming in 30, 35% above ticket, which is the appraisal value. They're coming in 35% above ticket because they're offloading a $2, $3, $4 million house and buying a $600,000 or $700,000 or $800,000 house that is bigger than what they're selling, and going, I had so much equity in that house because I bought it 5 years ago. And people in downtown Los Angeles don't, or wherever the condos are in Los Angeles or New York, are going, we don't want to, if you're the finance industry in New York, you kind of have to stick around. Yeah. So you're going to move to Connecticut, but then your condo's going up for sale or whatever in New York. There's so much activity of people moving out. This is probably one of the first times where I believe in, probably 50 years, where the flow of people went, instead of going from the suburbs to the city, which is like my generation of people were like, the elder millennials were like, why would I live in the suburbs? I want to go live in the city. That's where all the action is. Until you're in the city and you're in a bodega downtown and somebody sneezes on you, and then you can't backhand them because you're downtown. Then you go, I want to go live in the suburbs where I have a Walgreens and everyone maintains their distance.
Right.
And that is what I think has driven a lot of this. And I think it's like, here's the other thing. If you're someone who is saying, I can go build a bus and I can go live in a school bus for a year and drive around the country, sell your house and do it. Now is the time.
Again, look, so here, again, I look at things on not only a now level, but the future level. And the problem that this has created, and we had this problem here in Austin even before that, because houses have been going up in value, low inventory for a while, even before this. This has, again, made it 1,000 times worse. But what it does is it affects your first-time home buyer. There is no such thing in the Central Texas market, and a lot of your big markets, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Florida, several cities in Florida and California,
Right, yeah.
places that people are moving. That your first-time home buyer has now been out of the market for a while. There's no such thing as a first-time home. When I bought my very, very first home that I bought myself, I took one over from a friend, but the one that my wife and I bought a month before we were married, right, in 2002, I bought for $120,000 for zero down, right, and whatever. Still own that house, by the way.
Right.
It's not worth $120,000. It's worth $450,000.
There you go. God bless.
But my point is that doesn't exist anymore. Your first-time home buyer home in the Central Texas market, even before this, was $250,000, $300,000, right?
So
to get in with your first-time home buyer, 3.5%, 5% down, right? You had to do the math. You had to have $20,000 in the bank. Right? What 25-year-old has $20,000 in the bank when your average American has $1,000 in the bank?
Well, a lot of 25-year-olds have $25,000 in student loan debt.
Well, and then and here's why I say the future, right? Because if I don't buy that first-time home, right, when
you
I'm
don't
in my
get into that second,
you don't get into that second home when you're in your 30s, and you don't build that wealth. You realize that Generation X, my generation, right?
Yeah.
That's where they gained their wealth. They bought homes when they were young.
25, yeah.
And then they got that equity when they were in their 30s. And now that they're hitting their 40s, they got that second equity from that second investment. Now, again, I'm not saying that should be your biggest investment, but that's what it was. For the baby boomers, the last end of the baby boomers, and the Generation Xers, that's how they gained their wealth. Millennials and Gen Z, that's not an option.
So here's what I, of course, as someone who is I'm a millennial, I've never owned a home. And I will put it this way. I am, in large contrast to the big man, someone who says home buying is not the landmark, what's the word I'm looking for? But whatever it is not that mile marker in life
it's not
it used
an
to be.
asset. We've had that conversation.
Right.
It's not an asset.
So
People call it an asset, but it is a way to build wealth.
It is, and I don't deny that. But I do think that for a lot of people my age that are deeply in student loan debt, I listen. I don't think that $20,000 or $30,000 that you scrimp and save to put a down payment down on a house. I do believe, this is my personal opinion. So if you take my advice and it doesn't, if you take this non-advice as advice, do so at your own risk. This is simply my personal belief. This is a program called Idiots versus Idiots. If you take us seriously, up yours. You deserve whatever you get.
Club.com.
I think that $20,000 or $30,000 could be better implemented. Putting it towards some sort of income producing side hustle, whether that's a website doing affiliate marketing or whatever, whether that's a drop shipping store, whatever. Whether that's making a small investment into cryptocurrencies. Again, if you take this as advice, you're an idiot. But the reason I say that is you're going to bet on making a asymmetrical investment.
Sure.
And that's where I think a lot of millennials, because we need to make riskier and riskier bets in order to compensate for the poor advice that my generation received, advice I never took. But I also had parents that were helped out with getting me through college without any student loan debt. But I also picked the exact cheapest colleges to go to.
Well, but that specifically is a situation you had, right? Yeah. That's a situation you had, and good for you. But that's not like you said, there are a lot of millennials out there with 20, 30, 50. Hey, I know a millennial that's got $200,000 in student debt. Now she's a lawyer, but again, guess what? She doesn't own a house either, right? Now, and here's my point is I'm not. Again, I am an advocate of real estate being part of your portfolio.
You are.
But and here's so what happens when you don't buy that house, and you should be doing those hot side hustles and stuff as well. That building that house and paying yourself each month that mortgage, you're doing both. But millennials and Generation Z, as it sits right now, may not get to benefit for that for an extra decade, and that extra decade is a lot of money, a lot of wealth that goes untapped.
So what I'm saying to my fellow millennials, and perhaps maybe this is a time for you to keep your opinion to yourself, you old vicious. I'm kidding. I'm just saying that I see what you're saying, and I agree with you. And I think that it is more a blessing that occurs if your perspective is the red-pilled one, which goes that this opens me up to so many more opportunities. If I lived in Chicago, or if I lived in New York, or if I lived in Los Angeles, or if I lived in Austin and somebody in Florida called me up and said, hey, there's an opportunity for you to make $1 million a year here, but I'm tied to a house and I'm stuck. Well, I guess you're not really stuck in Austin because you can sell your house for a huge profit. But what I'm saying is, if you're, the house, owning a home somewhat ties you down to a place. And insofar as you can be mobile, I have friends who, up until Dos Equis Pandy, did not live in a place. Okay? They just hopped from country to country on 90-day visas, and they lived in Vietnam, and they were in some other.
That's just not most people. That's 1% of 1%. The fact is,
that is true.
Most people need to have a job that is geographically relevant. They have to have a place to live. They have to have a whatever. And again, and I don't. Again, these are all situational. There are definitely situations where renting is the way to go, and there are definitely situations where buying is the way to go. But here's where I disagree with you in that not owning your home, statistically speaking, 50 years, the last 50 years. If you didn't own your home versus the same age group that did own their home,
right?
Where are these two people at? And it's not the ones that didn't. So you take the next 50 years, and again, statistics being statistics. Now, again, I'm not disagreeing with you, and I don't want people listening to this going, hey,
but here's the point,
side hustles are, everyone should have a side hustle, whether you buy a home or not. Everybody should be investing, whether you own a home or not. Everybody should be doing all the things Danny's talking about, and there's definitely, and I have this conversation with every, not only client of mine, every realtor, every business owner I talk to, is there's a time and place for everything. You have to look at your scenario and go, is it the right time for me to buy?
And all I'm saying is I want to be an advocate for the don't buy rent movement, which is go invest your money into other things, because a single family home, which I love a single family home. At the core of my being, I am a kid who was raised in the suburbs of St. Paul who loves the suburbs. I might be the only person who's like, why would I live in a city when I can go live in an apartment in the suburbs and drive instead of walk, drive to all these places? But what I want to be an advocate for my ideas. That's the whole point of having a podcast, which is...
Well, it's hard when your ideas suck. No, I'm saying that. Look, again,
up yours.
If it works out for you, here's the deal, and we always can't know how it works out for us. Because let's take that scenario. If you are, let's say, a 30-year-old person that, okay, I've got $25,000 in student loan debt, I don't own a home, but I've got an extra 10 or 15K over here that I was thinking about buying a home, but I'm not sure if that's the right thing. You could absolutely... in this scenario, now what if scenario, this is idiots versus idiots, you're an idiot, right? And you take that $15,000 and you invested that January 1st into DogeCoin, and now that $15,000 is $400,000, and with that amount of money, you could just buy you a home outright or buy whatever you needed, or it turned into $1 million, then that worked for you. The problem is no one has a crystal ball to know whether that works for you or someone else.
Right. So here's what I'm saying. There is no one-size-fits-all answer to any question in life. There is no one-size-fits-all.
Real estate has been pretty consistent, though.
That's true.
Mean, seriously.
I'm an advocate of real estate investing. I'm not saying I'm not. What I'm saying is approaching, if you're in my generation, if you're a millennial, we received poor advice about taking out student loans. And so... what I'm saying is perhaps have a cynical, but let's not say cynical. Cynical is not a fair thing to say. I never want to be cynical or negative. Have a skeptical eye, skeptical perspective on buying a home as thinking this is how to build wealth. But there's so many other avenues that were not available to Gen Xers because Gen Xers went and bought books at a bookstore, and now some stranger comes to my house and delivers all of my groceries and all of my stuff. So there's so many other opportunities out there, and I just want to be an advocate of saying, because this is what I'm doing, right?
There is more than one way, and I will say
That's
that about
all.
almost anything, right?
And let me just
And
say
you
this
should
also.
be.
Let me just close with this one statement. And maybe the big man has a response here. But the person who benefits the most from your investment in a single family home is the bank that gives you the loan.
I
That's an asset to the bank, but maybe not to you. I'm not opposed to it.
I
And if you
agree
want
that
to,
it's not an asset. I've already
okay,
said that. By
I know, but
definition,
I'm
it
just
does not meet Robert
yeah,
Kiyosaki. It does not meet the definition of an asset. It's not
agreed. Agreed.
on a monthly basis. Does not
Yes,
generate you income.
but
It
over
costs
time
you
it builds
money.
wealth for you. I get what you're saying. I'm simply saying that I'm just being an advocate for what I believe, which is college isn't for everyone. It's probably for the inverse amount of people who go to college. So,
I agree with you there.
right. So I think that, I think I think maybe 10 or 15% of the people who are going to college belong there. I think the other percentage of people who are they're just young people trying to figure out life, and they took on the dumbest way to figure out life, the most expensive way to figure out, and you're not going to figure it out. That's what I guarantee you.
If you are fall into that, I would say anybody at any age, but if you fall in
Yeah.
that 20 to 35 range right now and you're listening to this show, go type in Gary V into TikTok, into Instagram, into anything else, and listen to his thing, because he's preaching exactly what Danny's saying,
Yeah.
which is
So-
you're spending time in college trying to figure out something that's not what the place to do it in,
Yes.
right? And it's costing you money.
And I believe similarly, for a lot of people, they create this unrealistic expectation of what buying their first home is going to be.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
doesn't turn out to be that. And for a lot of reasons, you don't know if the market can go up, can go down. You don't have flexibility. And so I'm just saying, I'm being an advocate for what I believe, which is in college, similarly, buying a home ain't the investment people say it is. Investigate something else that might work for you. I will never be one of those people who lives in a school bus. So I think that's weird.
Right, but you will then in turn, millennials, Generation
Yes.
Z, will rent those places that you live in, however nice or not nice they are, from Generation X and baby boomers. You
Right.
will rent them from
Well,
us.
no,
and
no, no.
we
Let
will
me
make
explain
that
something.
money. Somebody's
explain
making
something.
money regardless.
Let me explain something. Maybe you take your whatever 15 or 20 or $30,000 that you finally saved up, and you say, "Hey, I can go buy a house that will rent out in a college town, or it's gonna whatever. I'm gonna go buy a house in some other state, and I'm gonna go put a management company in charge of it, because the cost of ownership is lower in Memphis, Tennessee, let's say, right? So you go buy a house near the Memphis University of Memphis campus. Maybe that's a better investment for you than buying a house where you live in Austin, Texas. I'm just saying, maybe you use that money to buy an investment property. So you're still buying a single family home. You're still getting the benefits of it, but you rent where you live and you buy where you can rent out. That's all I'm saying. That's what I was trying to drive at. But, the big man can't help himself from interjecting every 4 seconds. Saying,
Hey,
well, tell you
again,
what, how the nigga do?
one of us is a successful businessman and the other one's jealous. Who's who is up to
Yes.
you. But
Right.
that's all I'm saying, okay? So look, and all you have to do if you are considering buying real estate, selling real estate, want to take advantage of it, find your local big man team at gmail.com. You can email that. One of my people, wherever you are all across the country, we're actually in 6 different countries now.
Mazel tov.
You can we'll absolutely turn around and send you my local people to help you and make sure that you are taken care of. And here's my deal, and I tell every single person I work with in all these cities across the United States, Canada, and all these different places we're at, I tell them the same expectation. We are upfront with people. If I sit down with you, if one of my people sit down with you, and it's not the right time for you to buy or sell, we will tell you it's not the right time for you to buy or sell. I have never, in my decade now of real estate and training other realtors and stuff like that, never had a single person come back and tell me that it wasn't, that either way I told them wasn't the right way for a situation that worked out for them.
Right.
Okay, so it's not about making money, it's about putting people in the right situations, because then you turn around and you build wealth. I've helped people with bad credit turn into renters, renters into homeowners, and homeowners into investors. That's our goal every single time.
Now, speaking of side hustles, speaking of making extra money, I want to tell you about a website called Rise Relentless. I own the website. It's RISELENTLESS. Rise Relentless. We sell fun coffee mugs for entrepreneurs, side hustlers, and everyone that dares to dream. The big man is showing off his one-of-one custom too big to fail Idiots versus Idiots mug. It's got our mugs on the mug. That one is not for sale yet, but might be coming out soon. We're working on.
Hey, again, for the right price, I'll make it one of two. I don't mind share. That's all I'm saying.
There you go. But this last story freaks me out, and I'm not a Luddite. I'm a technology guy. Okay, I'm an early adopter of technology. I was one of the few people when I was 16. I started college when I was 16, and I was one of the few people that carried a smartphone. And my friends are like, dude, because like everyone, had just started buying those Motorola Razors.
Right.
Like, dude, those are the people who also bought iPhones later, and who also mocked people who didn't buy iPhones. And so,
right.
But all of those people have electric cars, so they're gonna have to charge a car overnight to come over and punch me in the face if they got something to say.
And
I could just drive
live
up
within 250 miles.
That's what I'm saying. But Domino's, a pizza chain, has started to deliver pizzas with self-driving cars. So no thanks. I don't want to live in this future.
Not a self-driving car, a self-driving robot. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you looked up what this looks like, but it looks like a mini minivan, right? Like it's specifically made to deliver groceries. Apparently, I learned today, did not know this, and this is all happening right now. It's all happening in Houston. They're also in Phoenix, but the big thing is in Houston. They've already been doing this for delivering for CVS, right? And it's literally, folks, looks like a mini minivan. Look it up. It's called the Nero something.
Yeah,
Nero
it's a
R2.
Yeah, something like that.
Nero R2, and it looks like a mini minivan with a couple of trunk hoods on it, right? Where you can open it up.
There'll be a picture of it in the description of this episode.
And right now, if you do live in Houston and you're listening to this show, you have to call the, which branch is it? The Woodland Heights location for Domino's. And you have to say, hey, you have to select the option of I want the robot to drop off the pizza, right? You order it. The robot drives to your house. You get a text message with a PIN number on it. You enter the PIN. You open the latch. There's your pizza, nice and warm. You take it back into your house, and you just got your pizza delivered to you by a robot. Nobody in the car. Nobody anywhere near you. Like, that's insane. That is insane.
Listen, I have two thoughts here. The Dos Equis Pandy has created a situation where human beings would like a little less contact with other human beings.
Sure.
So it has created a situation where it's probably the right time for this particular product. But I'm just saying, as someone who is, again, I'm not a Luddite. I am way better at technology than the big man. The big man just could not figure out technology to save his life. He is so old. I am literally the youngest person that exists. I am part of Gen Z and the generation that comes after Gen Z.
Alpha, right? Isn't it Alpha? It's Alpha.
Yeah, I'm Alpha Gen. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, so I'm a child. I'm a baby. This is too much. This is too far.
It's coming, brother. It's coming.
I want, when I order a pizza, I want a pimple-faced 20-year-old listening to Led Zeppelin, who is clearly high on whatever legal herbal remedies are available in their jurisdiction. That's what I want. Okay?
It makes you feel good about giving them a big tip because they need it. They need it really bad. But look, they've already signed agreements with Walmart, CVS, obviously, Kroger, Chipotle. Here in the Austin area, they signed back in 2000 with HEB. They look, whether you like it or not, these little robot delivery cars that, by the way, drive on the regular road. They're completely, you know what I mean, insured. They look like, and they've got the big camera, the Google Street Cam looking thing on top. This is the future because guess what? And again, this is another industry that has benefited from the Dos Equis Pandy we've talked about that probably was 2025, right, or something like 5 years out, and it took this as an opportunity to go, oh, hell no. No, 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 no. We're going to get this out now because people don't want to leave their houses anyway, and we're delivering more pizzas than we ever have anyway.
And
right?
people don't want those delivery people to come to their door and hand them something.
Absolutely, everything's
Right.
contactless. Where I live, everything's contactless anyway. If I have pizza delivered to the house, they set it on, the front porch.
Yeah.
They've done it so often now that my family started to see they're actually putting down little pieces of cardboard to raise the pizza off the ground, so they're not setting it on the ground. The point is what's different between that and going out to the street and punching in a number and getting it out of the robot, and then the robot goes on about his business. And if you can get people to buy in on pizza delivery by robot,
then
they'll definitely call HEB and get it delivered with robot.
Of course.
They'll definitely call.
They're going to call up HEB on their phone, right? They're going to dial HEB's number and say, hey, can you deliver salad to my house? No, they're going to use an app, obviously.
Well, and then when it comes to, you're gonna get McDonald's branded and what?
Yeah,
how long before these become okay? Your groceries are getting delivered by each HEB, but it's also got a Taco Bell logo on the side of it because they're paying to advertise Taco Bell on the side of an HEB, right?
Yeah. No, listen, I this is already happening, right? There are already people buying up small fleets of used vehicles to rent out to Uber Eats drivers and DoorDash drivers, where they go to car advertise and these other websites where you can get your car wrapped as an advertisement. And that is, I don't think it's the future. I think it's here, right?
These robot delivery things are right now. See, now you give me that, I'm going to have to go out and wrap 5 robot delivery things in the big man, right, logo and everything else. Maybe we'll buy one for it. We'll have a whole fleet of idiots versus idiots.
No, we have something. We already got something else coming there, but I'm already working on something. But I'm just saying, like, this is radical to me, and we got a story coming next week about how it gets even crazier, right? And I split up these two stories, and in researching the other story that's coming out next week, I found this story and thought, well, this is wacky. This is already happening.
Well, I think it's an inevitability, not only from a technology standpoint, but a cost-effective standpoint. Again, we've talked about how Walmart, all these different places, these retailers, how much, in our opinion, looking into the future, they're going to become more warehouses than they are really nice store because less and less foot traffic inside.
It's already happening.
Absolutely. We did a story not too long ago after we had made that prediction. Several Walmarts had done that kind of stuff. But you add in these robot fleets, even though it costs them for these robot fleets, grocery stores, Walmarts, they make that money back like this.
Right.
Not paying somebody to drive, to deliver. That's been the big hurdle for delivery services, even in inner cities up to this point, is it's expensive to pay that 20-year-old kid to drive 5 bags of groceries to your house.
And the other thing, too, is in a lot of jurisdictions, in a lot of places, insuring an 18 to 20-year-old driver is rough. Insuring a 16-year-old driver, because 16-year-olds are probably the pay-wise are the target. This is your first job. You're going to be a delivery driver.
Minimum wage, right?
But it's hard to insure them when they're on the road. So it ends up being a thing where you have to have 21 to 25-year-olds. And those people want more money, as they should, because why else are you doing this job, right?
And these robots are electric. They're not using gas. That's a lower cost to these, when you're talking about fleets and stuff like that. So it lowers their costs that they're able to make up. I think you're going to see a future with these kind of robots where almost every type of delivery is free, right? Included in the cost of things. There's no additional fee for it because they're not paying that 18-year-old kid. They're not having to deal with that. They just stick it in these machines. These machines are lined outside your local Walmart, HEB, or whatever, and you just see those 18-year-old kids stuffing these things into the robots.
Yeah.
And then they're going out, and then you add onto it. I'm sure there's some software developer out there already, on just like there are street lights that handle red lights and all this stuff, saying, okay, all right, this has to go in that because it's going to make 2 stops, one at this house and this house, and it's already going right.
Listen, and let me see, Lito. I'm going to combine this with something else that already exists. There are already machines that can make hamburgers just as good as a human being can. Yep. There are already machines that can make pizzas just as good as a human being can. We will see very soon a completely automated restaurant that has 1 employee at it all day. That's it.
I don't doubt it, and I think the first ones you'll see of something like that is some kind of fast food, right? A McDonald's will open up in some foreign country that's like, they have 2 employees. Those employees are not there to help you. They're there to fix the crap that may break down on the machine that's helping you, right? I mean,
No, they're just there to oversee the orders, right? They're just there to make sure that the orders go into the right vehicles, that the machines are operating correctly. That's it. Because I was watching it was a TikTok video that was on Instagram, because I don't have TikTok because I'm an American. God bless America.
Whatever. I have TikTok and I'm an
Yeah,
American.
of course you do. Yeah, I know. But you
see
also
this
have
Texas right up here, Bubba?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I know. But you also are injected with microchips. So just saying. And it was a pizza machine, and they kinked one of the dough. They kinked the dough on. There's 4 or 5 dough things sitting there. They kinked the dough on one of it, and the machine recognizes that it was kinked and still lays out a perfect thing of sauce. So I do think that and it's. So I'm just saying the technology is to a point where, a lot of times when there's a new piece of technology, they may have to roll it out slower because adoption. It's too much to adopt for the consumer at once. But the Pandy has created a situation where adoption is at an all-time high. And, the big man was telling me about using Zoom, and we should do a podcast in 2019 or 2018. And I was like, yeah, I don't think so.
Right.
Yet here we are, and everyone uses this godforsaken piece of software that I absolutely hate. That is literal garbage.
Hey,
but
it works. It works for me.
Well, it works for you, right? But I'm just saying that, the adoption of this thing, the rate of adoption is going to be so rapid, and that very soon there is going to be, what we believed to be the retail apocalypse could become a situation where smaller, convenient stores, like we talked about GoPuff on this show before, where there's going to be smaller warehouses to serve areas, because these electric, these small electric delivery vehicles don't have the greatest range. That they can, and listen, these things are going to come back. They're going to self-park. They're going to show up. They're going to automatically plug themselves in, so they're charging when they're not moving. It's going to be wild, man. The future is going to be wild.
You know what? If I was going to decide to go to college in today's world, I don't know why it wouldn't be to, some kind of electrical engineer to learn how to fix these things, right? Or, the engineers that are designing these things and stuff like that. I mean, that over the next 25, 30 years, right? The maintaining of these kind of fleets, the people that work on them, the people that develop them, the people that put them together, that to me is, and look, this has been this way. Technology is not going to slow down for anybody, right?
No.
I don't remember the stat I was looking at a couple of years, but it's something crazy. Like half the people in college over the last 20 years end up in fields that didn't exist while they were in college.
Right.
That's how fast technology, and I think it's probably even worse now if I was guessing that stat.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
You're in college right now. Maybe you're working on engineering because you think one thing, but you end up in a completely different type of engineering field than you thought because technology changed.
Listen, I was in college, and the concept of like business being done over Facebook was a joke.
Right.
Like somebody's like, I'm going to go start a business, and I'm using Facebook to just because you couldn't even buy ads on Facebook yet.
Right.
Right. And the concept of people using I had an eBay business in college, and my friends thought it was like, oh, that's cute. Right. I was like, well, I'm like, bro, you make $7.25 an hour working at Subway.
Yeah.
I put 3 cell phones on eBay, and I make the same thing you do in a week. They were just like, yeah, I mean, but let's say, like, come on, it's like a one-time. It's not going to last, right? They have the same approach to internet business that you do to cryptocurrency. Like, yeah, right, that's not going to last. Real people go to an office and have a job. And now all of them, without fail, hit me up to say, I'm selling essential oils for some multi-level marketing company. Do you want to sign up? And I just go, up yours, club.com.
Club.com. And then, but yeah, so I think this is just an example of where we're headed. Domino's is a great, I think, for this company. Nero's that's making these, I think Domino's was a great choice. I mean, everybody knows Domino's Pizza, right?
They're a very forward thinker when it comes to technology too.
Absolutely. And so I think the first article I read about them partner was in 2019. It was a couple of years ago. It was pre Dos Equis Pandy, right? It was pre that. And this
they were
just
building
accelerated
Chevy
it.
Sparks. Yeah, they were building Chevy Sparks to deliver cars.
Yeah.
Deliver pizzas. Oops.
So anyway, I think that's our show this week.
Is that
Right,
it?
Danny?
You have
I think
nothing
that's
else
it.
to complain about? You have nothing to
You know
whine
what?
about?
Not today. Not today. Tomorrow, new day, new problems. We'll figure that out.
Well, hey, you want to hear something crazy? According
What's
to my
that?
accountant, Microsoft Paint is not a personal finance software, so he is not accepting my receipts to process my tax returns. So that's a bummer.
Yeah, that is a bummer. Anything else, Danny?
That's all.
Is that the end of your idiocy today?
No, that is just the beginning of my idiocy today. Just getting started.
All right, folks. We'll see you next time around.
You can see it's a beautiful day outside, so I'm going to head out. We'll see you later, folks.
Later.